Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. This is Life List, a birding podcast with Molly Brown, Alvaro Jaramillo. I am George Armistead. Guys, here we are. How we doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, we're back.
How about
This
that?
feels a little bit like comfort food again. Sitting
That's
back
right.
and recording the podcast.
Here in the cold of winter.
Yeah, after a break, after we've all... Now, you all actually recorded some episodes that'll be released after this, but I've been on break.
Yeah.
From podcasting, anyway.
A lot has happened since our last recording.
Yeah.
A lot has happened. And we're also, this is a weird one because have we ever done a podcast where we're at such different time intervals? Or like we're kind of all, for me, it's
good
like
question.
night. It's like, it's night. It's like nearly 11 here, PM, in Japan.
Where in Japan are you, Al?
I'm in Tokyo. You
I've
ever heard of
that.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big city.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little, village.
Nice. You see some, what do they call them now? Azure Wing magpies? You see some today?
No, they're not. They're not. You got to kind of go look for them. You don't just see them when you're in Tokyo. So
that's the only place I've ever seen them. So
yeah, you have to go to specific parks, but we haven't done that yet because we're just starting. We did the gulls today.
That sounds.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's just hard to believe. Al doing the gulls,
getting that just right off the bat in a tour. That's like your crash course when people arrive for a tour. It's like, all right, welcome. Let's go look at gulls.
Well, actually, we go early and quick, and you're like done. You're done the gulls. You don't have to do the gulls.
Dine and dash.
That's funny. It's a little filter for the rest of your tour. Make sure everybody gets through there. No, I think that would be really exciting. There are some pretty cool looking gulls to sift through over there too.
Yeah, and some difficult ones, like a lot of issues. But I've been here long enough now, thinking about these things that I'm like getting more confident. Where I'm like, oh yeah, there's Tamir gull, there's a Mongolian gull. And I'm like, okay, it's like could be wrong, but at least I'm confident.
At least it feels familiar. I will say, as far apart as we are in time zones, at least you were on the hour from us, because when George and I were in India last week, it was 10 and a half hours. We were on a half-hour time difference, and that just adds even more. I don't think we would have made it on here at the same time if we had that hurdle to figure out. Yeah.
And I've got the issue of, I'm a full day later. So when we were like the schedule, I was like, oh, is it today? It's like I thought it was tomorrow.
I texted you. I was like, Al, you coming? And you're like, is that today? Oh, all right, sure.
I'm here.
I'm just realizing this is how you do your predictions, right? It feels like you need to make something while you've got a day ahead of us.
Yeah. Like, I'm predicting. Tell me text me what the weather is, guys, and I'll tell you what the weather is going to be. Whatever, I don't know. No, I'll text you what the weather is today. That's how it works, and then you predict. Yeah.
There you go.
Really risking reputation with these predictions. Yeah.
A
lot on the line. Hey guys, I have a prediction. Right. Coming up this Sunday is the Super Bowl.
Oh no.
I predict there are two teams playing in this Super Bowl. They are the loathsome Kansas City Chiefs, who have the benefit of always having the referees on their side. These many years, benefiting from, an absurd number of ridiculous calls. And then there are the earnest.
Guess what the other team is.
The earnest and reputable, wholesome Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm predicting that the Philadelphia Eagles will win the Super Bowl by 2 scores. 2 scores. So I would say that anyone listening to this podcast is by nature a birder and should root for the bird team, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. So, folks, we are counting on your support here in Philadelphia. Go Birds, EAGLES, Eagles. That's all I have to say on that matter.
So what does 2 scores mean for somebody who does not know football?
9 points or more.
Okay. So should I put my life savings and go to one of the betting things and bet this stuff?
You absolutely should do that. I would definitely recommend that. And if you win, I will expect a commission of, say, 50%. Should you lose, well, sorry about that.
So, Molly, I don't know anything about football, but I know that the Kansas City Chiefs win all the time. So, so it suggests to me that they're going to win again, isn't it? Just from sheer numbers, a numbers game.
They are 1-point favorites, which is pretty much means it's a pick 'em.
Yeah. Well,
did you see how tense he looked when I said that? I'm just trying to get him, It's I hear there's a Ross's goal in Kansas.
Yes.
So that means the Chiefs should win for the Ross's goal.
No, it means they have already had their share of good luck, and that they should just ride the luck of the Ross's goal, and and then root for the birding team.
I gotta say, I have not been on Facebook much, but I think there's a fate for that Ross's goal. Man, I shouldn't talk about. I don't. I think that you're really throwing a wrinkle in this because it's not there now, right?
Oh, is that right? I mean, the vagrant Ross's gulls do not have a good history of surviving very long.
Snowies.
I've tried to minimize how much I've been on Facebook lately, so I did not read into this. But you might really be throwing out some heavy predictions, and maybe our listeners can read into these cookies that we're, expertly dropping into our podcast.
If the gull is gone for a bit, but it comes back, then a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs will probably go to see the Ross's goal, and then they will lose the game because they're at the Ross's goal, right?
That would stand to reason. Yeah, Mahomes definitely looks like he's got a birder streak in him. Yeah.
So you're talking about bird people, but aren't the Swifties on the other teams? Everybody loves Swifts.
This is a difficult one for Taylor Swift because she's from the outskirts of Philadelphia, but her man plays for Kansas City. So tough one for her.
Is she feeling torn about this?
I don't think so. I think she's rooting for Travis. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I will be in Japan ignoring what's going on in the Super Bowl.
Perhaps wise. Yeah.
Yes. Except
I have been in Colombia.
So yeah.
Well, right. You have to know if you get your money. I've been in Colombia watching the Super Bowl before. I will be in Colombia again, but this time I will probably not go through the trouble of figuring out how to stream the Super Bowl in our hotel room.
The last time I watched the Super Bowl was with my good buddy Roger Rodriguez and a team of lifeless folks after when the Eagles were playing the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. And we took a rather painful loss. That was pretty difficult. So this year's rematch of that game. So anyway, we shall see how it unfolds. I suspect there is a significant portion of our listenership that really does not care about this game at all, but I know there are some that do. So it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds for those that do care. Have you seen, guys, that there is also a spectacled eider in the Netherlands? There's that's pretty wild.
That's the most twitched bird in Europe, I think, ever, or something like that.
That is wild. And it's a beautiful male. It's like a gorgeous plumage. Apparently they say it's a young male, I guess, but pretty much looks like an adult male. It's exhibiting more or less like an adult male. Right.
Don't these people know you can go to Alaska with George and see these things? You don't have to go to Holland,
You're talking sense. You're talking sense.
Seeing them in Alaska is way cooler than seeing them in Holland.
That's right.
My thought.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on this matter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where you can see many of them and see a whole bunch of other stuff.
Possibly even polar bear. possibly even
Possibly.
polar bear.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mentioned the bear. Never mentioned the bear. But
that of which we do not speak.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Molly, how are you feeling? We got back what? Day before yesterday?
Hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not well enough recovered that I know what day it is.
Have you stopped shaking your head side to side when people ask you questions?
The Indian nod. Yeah.
That I feel like I don't know. There's like a yes, and you kind of dip with it, and you just can't help but do that.
Yeah.
I've seen Indians see me, see that nod, and be amused that I don't understand it at times. You know, like they're like, "Oh, right, you don't know the Indian nod." Yeah,
yeah, it is funny to watch that happen.
For those of you who don't know, like when you're in India and you say something and people are agreeing with you, they don't shake their head up and down. They shake it side to side.
Yeah, they kind of wave it side to side,
wave it, lightly, sort of like a bobblehead, sort of, and it is interesting, but
yeah, because you see Americans, we're like what?
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of nuance to it, right? It's really cool. I did notice a lot. And we were in some areas that were more touristy, some areas where there aren't a lot of international tourists. There's actually a lot of domestic tourism. So that was awesome. But that someone would like kind of nod yes and then take a pause and then say, oh, yes. They like remember who they're communicating to and that we need extra verification. That was pretty cool. But I'm feeling good. When Jimmy and I went to India, we took an overnight flight to London. We had 12 hours in London, and then we left that night and did essentially another overnight flight to Delhi, overnight by whatever time zone we were in. So that was all messy. It was really cool to have that break in London because we just took a train into town, and I hadn't been before. So we went to Hyde Park and walked around, and we had just our carry-on backpacks, and we actually went. I thought this was clever, but it just worked out because we were talking to women in a cafe as we were trying to fill ourselves with coffee to get through the day, and they suggested we go to this free museum because there are a lot of cool free museums there, and we just left our backpacks at the coat check, and then we were like, oh, now we can walk around Hyde Park without backpacks. So we did that and went and got them, and by the time we got to Delhi, we were pretty dead, and we got there a few days before our tour officially started, which was very good because we avoided a lot of significant travel delays that the rest of our group had. But it took, that was. Are we talking about that on this podcast? It was a huge ordeal.
Let's just say there was a snowstorm that complicated things for several of us.
And just other random events.
Oh my God, yeah. Just the short version is Kristen and I got delayed. Well, 5 of us actually got delayed. 3 of us out of Newark and me and Kristen out of JFK because of a snowstorm. And there were then a few other complications that delayed things. Thankfully, it only ended up really delaying us by a day, which, we had an extra day scheduled at the front end anyway. So we missed a little bit of birding around Delhi that was just extra that was planned. But we made it in time to get a teeny bit of sleep, and then begin the trip as it was planned. So thankfully we weren't any later than that, but it made for an interesting journey over, shall we say.
It did. Our group chat was dramatic, and there was some funny commentary, and then it wasn't so funny because the first full day of the tour, we're taking another domestic flight because we base in Delhi, which is a really easy airport to fly into, and then we flew way up. It was like another 4-hour flight to get into the sister
Guwahati.
states to go to Assam. Yeah. So we really needed folks to be there to catch that flight, or else it was going to get a lot more difficult. But all that worked out. We took a 16-hour direct flight home, which was actually a lot easier than 2 8-hour flights. I think that's kind of luck of the draw on how those affect you.
That's what we did too. Yeah, we took a
Delhi, West Virginia direct flight.
Yeah. Goes right to the Morgantown airport.
Yeah, Morgantown.
Nice. Yeah. Things are looking up there.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
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 It was West Virginia. Yeah.
That to say, it did take us to DC, and there is a little airport in Morgantown that does those like commuter hopper flights, and a lot of times you can fly for $40 from Morgantown Airport over to DC, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
actually they get canceled a lot, so it's hard to count on that. But there's you don't have to drive over and pay your $13 a day for parking or whatever, and it ends up cheaper. But anyway, almost did that. I did fly. There's another town south of me, Clarksburg, West Virginia, that has another one of these tiny little airports. And I did once fly from Clarksburg to Bangkok with one stop in DC. And that felt kind of cool.
Wow.
So that's how I get to Thailand.
Well,
Probably the same flight you took.
One of the cool things about coming to Japan is that every single other place I go, every single other place I have to stop somewhere, no matter what, So this one, it's like one flight, boom,
Right to
San
Tokyo.
Francisco, right to Tokyo.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, it's amazing how, even though it's a long flight, how that just feels like, oh, it's domestic or something, like it just feels different,
Yeah,
That's
I like
good.
that about our India trips that begin in Delhi. This one's a little different because there is the jump to Guwahati in Assam, which is I think it's 2.5 hours. I think, so then there is that. But yeah, I know what you mean. But I feel like we should give folks a little background on what we did, Molly. We just did a scout trip for the Life List Safari Assam trip that will happen in March of 2026. People should definitely check that out. It's been featured prominently in the Life List newsletter, which we hope you'll subscribe to if you haven't already. A lot of cool articles and features there. But it is also on our websites. You can find it at the Life List site, at Hillstar Nature, Alvaro's Adventures, all those places. You can find the Safari Assam trip. Check it out. Really, the key things that we look for are the Indian one-horned rhino. And man, an amazing conservation story. I think we're going to dive into this in more depth in a future podcast. So we'll just give you a couple highlights here. But that was awesome, seeing Asian elephants, some great experiences with them. We did have one beautiful experience with a tiger. And even some folks in the group got to see a black panther, a black leopard, which is pretty amazing. This is actually a pretty good area for them. Where one of the parks we go to, Manas, is a pretty well-known spot for them. We missed seeing a large king cobra by just 1 hour.
Yeah.
Man, that would have been amazing. Apparently, it's a good
Really
12-footer. Yeah. There's a known den site right next to the road at one place where this king cobra comes to sun itself. We were a little earlier in the season, but next year I would think we'd be in prime time to see that. Also next year, it'll be really in the prime of both migration and breeding season for resident birds, but there'll be quite a few migrant birds moving as well. So it should be, we had a pretty robust list on this trip we just did, and we'll share that eBird trip report soon, but it should even be more robust next year when we go with our gang. And we've got a good crew already registered. We had some fun stuff, Molly. One of the cool things I think happened the very first outing of the very first day. We're kind of, we went to this spot to try to find blue-naped pitta, which we heard, but it was playing coy, and it's a little bit of a tricky time of year to see pittas in general there. But then on the way back, we get back to the Jeep, and our friend Angela is like, "Hey, guys, what's this bird?" And I was like, "Well, that's a muscicapid, and it's blue above and white below, but it's not one I studied for here." So I took a couple pics, showed it to our guides. They initially thought it might be like an Iltava type, initially. And then Palab, the local guide, was like, "Could it be this?" And he showed me an image of a blue and white flycatcher. And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." And he's like, "We better go look at that thing, because that is not only the first for the state of Assam, but the first for all of Northeast India." And it turned into quite a twitch, didn't it, Molly?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, like our first morning of birding. So To kind of like back up and set the stage for this a little bit. This was my first trip to India. I've traveled elsewhere in Africa before on some safaris. I have been to Southeast Asia and central Thailand before. So those were sort of my points of reference for this. I still had no idea what to expect for India. And even where to begin, because, you know, there are a lot of different birding routes in India. Of course, it's huge, but there are also just a lot of different and popular places to go birding. So this is an area that really ended up combining a lot of the experiences that I'd had before, where you have this very safari-like experience where you're in the vehicles looking for lots of really exciting mammals. I know you listed several, and that's like barely. We had a really nice mammal list. A lot of primates. I don't know if you mentioned elephants and like just really cool things, but along the way we're getting 300 species of birds. So you're spending some time on foot and doing your kind of typical birding too. But the birds that you're seeing are a lot of these Southeast Asian birds, or, you know, because we're really far over there, away from Delhi. Like we said, it takes another flight to get up to this area that's kind of like nearly detached from the rest of India. You're way closer to Bhutan than you are to Delhi, so we can talk about that a little bit too. So yeah, when you're getting started and you start seeing these flycatchers that I dearly love, any flycatcher with this much blue in it is awesome. But it's really cool, just that feeling of the mix of species that you have there. And of course, that was actually a bird that I'd seen before in Thailand. So I just kind of thought, well, it makes sense that they ranged this far, but that turns out that was not the case at all. And then it also gave us a lot of insight into the local birding culture. Once we followed up on this, that was a huge twitch for Indian birders. It was really fun. And we're out on this tea plantation that has some tree coverage, like coffee. Tea does well with some shade, so there's like a canopy above where you've got these tea plants, and it's our first morning. We're on foot, everything's new. Local guides Surya and Paula were saying like, this isn't good birding, this is like, the plantation birding, but it's new stuff to us, so it's one of our first checklists as a group for the trip. So everything was exciting, and we're just kind of moseying on to the next thing, and there's this bird, and it's beautiful and it kind of feels exciting, but it's just us in the middle of nowhere with no one else around, with a foggy morning looking at a cool bird. And then it took the whole rest of the trip to kind of experience the trickle effects, that we were getting the updates from other birders going to get it, and we're seeing it come up in the local news outlets and this whole thing. So it kind of just like, it was a recurring theme throughout our trip to get the updates on this rare bird, and that was really fun.
One of the crazy things, remember, was initially the first twitch folks went to go see this bird, and they couldn't find the bird that we found, but they found a female blue and white flycatcher at the same location, which was really mind-blowing. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I think a few days later that was misidentified in photos. So,
oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think that was the final take. But that was just, bizarre, and then a little bit of a picnic table effect. But that's all the excitement of, took a little while to be refound, and then I think it was showing really consistently. I don't know if it's still there, but it would make sense that it is.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to and Angela, it was her first time birding in Asia at all, and first day finds this, mega rarity. It sets off a crazy twitch. There's not even that many records for all of India. Most of them are from the south of India. But this one was, first one for Northeast India, which is, a place sort of equivalent to the size of about Colorado. Imagine finding a new bird for that amount of space that has a list already of seven. I think Assam has a list of 730 birds or so. Really remarkable, fun experience, and a beautiful bird on top of it all. So that was pretty awesome.
Always helps when it's a really pretty bird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for people that haven't been in Asia before, the this is a when we say flycatcher, this is actually a true flycatcher in the family that is in Europe and Asia that originally had the name flycatcher that we sort of stole and gave it to our tyrant flycatchers, but it's a totally different family. A lot of these things were actually even called thrushes for some time, and many of them have superb color. So they're totally unlike our flycatchers that we think of as dull and difficult to identify. Some of these are actually difficult to identify, but it's sort of like, where is the orange and the blue rather than where's the brown and the olive, sort of.
It's an incredible family, the muscicapid Old World flycatchers, right? It spans things like blue whistling thrush and forktails and stone chats and then a bunch of things that are actually called flycatchers as well, the niltavas. It's a really incredibly diverse and interesting family.
And there's a lot of this. This is a recurring theme. When I was in Thailand recently, it's like, why are there so many blue and white or blue and orange birds in Asia? And many of them are in different groups. They're not even all related to each other. It's weird. And a lot of these blue flycatchers are kind of sneaky. They just sort of sit in the undergrowth and they're not really obvious. Which also is like, wow, if you're going to have that much color, why don't you hang out like a tanager and just sort of be out there and boldly sort of proclaim your blueness? But they don't.
Yeah, they're pretty retiring, a lot of them. Yeah, well, that was a real highlight. And then another cool experience we had, which was kind of bittersweet, was one of the cool things about this trip is there's a number of critically endangered or endangered species that we have a chance to see. There's 4 vulture species that are critically endangered that we have a chance to see, including slender-billed, red-headed, and a couple others. There's the Bengal floricon, which we should be there at a very good time in March to see, which is a small, really dapper bustard. And they hopefully will be displaying in March, which would be typical for them when they do a pretty remarkable display. But one of the other ones that we had hoped to really connect with was white-winged duck, or what they used to call white-winged wood duck. And unfortunately, frustratingly, the pond where these birds, where probably most birders that have seen this bird go to see it in the Mary National Park, had been dredged. And I think the idea is that they're trying to improve the habitat for a white-winged duck, from what I heard when I gathered. But in the short term, these birds had abandoned that pond because it was currently not suitable and had been really disturbed. So we were pretty bummed because when we got there, it hadn't been seen for like 10 days or something. And we were like, geez, man, that's tough luck to get there and have that happen. But our spirits were buoyed when our local guide shushed us pretty dramatically at one point, because we had a pretty verbose group, if we're being honest. Everybody was having having a good time, and we had to remind folks that we were listening for birds. Which at one point we heard this kind of wailing sound, a short kind of low wail sound, and it was the white-winged duck, and I think the local guide there had only heard it once before or never before, and the other two Indian birders with us had never heard it before. Jeff Kenny managed to get a recording of it, which is apparently the 8th recording for this bird in eBird. That was probably, despite the fact we didn't get to see this thing, that was probably the rarest thing we actually had happen on the tour, was getting to hear white-winged duck. And it also gave us some hope that maybe the bird is clearly still in the area, and maybe has found another spot and will be more gettable next year. So that was a pretty wild experience.
The white-winged duck is thought to be the closest relative of the extinct and weirdo pink-headed duck from India.
I do remember reading that. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a Muscovy a little bit, but obviously, not like that.
This is, like Old World and New World nomenclature coming into effect too. It's that even though this isn't a comparison, but just if a person in the US is thinking about a wood duck, they're thinking about like a small, petite, agile, really beautiful duck. This is none of those things. So the name wood duck is misleading in that way, and that this is like a giant, gangly, like, I hate to say it, but almost domestic looking duck. You know, it's got like the speckled white head. It's like really bulky. Doesn't look like it should really be able to fly that well. So, but that's just like, that's part of the charm of a duck that is so elusive. But I think it's kind of cool that it looks like it's like a Muscovy, but it's this
a bird with really few places you can see it, sort of in like Cambodia, Burma, Myanmar, if anybody could go there, and then just East India. Not a lot of sites to try for.
Not a lot of sites, very small population, critically endangered, and it's really skulky and shy too. So it's not that, you go to the spot and it's guaranteed to be sitting there 10 feet in front of you.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a hike to get to where it is. So it's
it is.
But luckily, there's lots of other stuff to see along the way. That there's good birding in that park.
That park was really cool. That was a really fun area. Well, I was looking at it on Birds of the World too this morning and looking at the data. So these are sexually dimorphic in their calls. And it looks like it's only the male that calls as they take flight. So this is like a 1 second kind of mid-range whistle that was just like a single note that we heard repeatedly, and it does right as it was taking off. So we know that it took off from somewhere close by. This wasn't, I don't know, a flyover like cranes or something that you're just hearing pass over. It's somewhere that's close and not going far. So that was really cool to look up, and so close. It was a really, really unusually foggy morning. So we were not a quiet group anyway, which was fun. But it was also, we were kind of goofy that morning because there wasn't a lot to see because it was so foggy, and we were kind of just killing time for the fog to lift, which was really muffling. Not muffling, but suppressing songs that morning as well. So there wasn't even a whole lot to listen to as far as birds singing that morning because of the weather. So this was a huge surprise after I think we'd probably all written that bird off.
Yeah. Remember, and there was everybody kind of rolling in across the mist. You and I got out ahead of the group, and there's a short boat ride across the river there to get to where we begin our hike. And it was pretty ethereal watching this group, and I remember Jeff being like, we're here to take your land. We're here to pillage, but we want to keep our feet dry,
Yeah. Well, this was our first day. So this tour and the run that we did is in 3 different parks. So you spend a few days at the first park. This was the middle park. So we had switched locations, and it was our first morning there. So we hadn't actually seen the area before to know what to expect. So we were staying pretty close by. We got in our cars and went over to this place where we just park and everybody gets out first thing in the morning. And there's just a long, narrow canoe that fit, 14 people or so, and then just mist. and you just get in it and you disappear off. And we knew we were taking a little hike, but it turns out it was 30 yards, not even that. You're just crossing this little part of the river that narrows down there. That was a gorgeous river that we actually rafted as well later and got to see the full context of. But you just look like you're disappearing off into the mist. So that was really cool. I have a video of that. I'll put it on Instagram before this podcast goes out.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to taking a bit of a deeper dive on that whole experience. A lot of cool stuff. So we will share more on that trip later on. But again, people should check it out. Safari Assam is going to be a great time. And we look forward to birding with those of you who have already signed up, and hope some more friends will join us for that, because it's going to be a hell of a good time. So, and Al, you currently are in Tokyo, and you just came from Thailand.
That's right.
I feel like you had a relatively short time home from our cruise. We do have several podcast episodes upcoming on the New Zealand and Australia subantarctic islands cruise Alvaro and I did in December. So there's that was a thrilling trip. And we really look forward to detailing that for everybody. We've already recorded those episodes, and those will be released soon. So we'll talk about those later. But Al, tell us about what you've been up to lately, man. You've just been nonstop.
My whole winter will be nonstop. I come home after this trip and I'm there a little bit. Then I go to Chile, Argentina. Then I come home and go to Cuba, actually. Then I come home and come back to Japan for the spring trip.
That's what I want to do.
It's just like it's each segment between trips is only like, at the most a week. So it's kind of like, go. And spring in Japan, everybody, space is left. Amazing, way to see the migration out here. And who knows, you might even see this flycatcher they've been talking about out here where they breed. So Thailand was my first time in Thailand I'd been there before just to look at the pre-trip to Bhutan, where we go look for the spoon-billed sandpiper. And this time it was a full-on trip, and it was a pretty great trip. Yeah. Lots of good food. And the southern food and the northern food is totally different. I was kind of, I didn't expect that. The northern food, a lot of more like Chinese food than Thai food, and we just saw a ton of stuff. And there's a lot of things in Thailand that are interesting, I thought, for the birder. Like one of the things is these hides, where you go and you just sit, and it's sort of a moderately recent thing. So it's sort of the equivalent of in Latin America, people are getting the antpitas to come out, and you kind of go to a place and you can go see some rare or at least hard to see antpitas. This is the same thing. You just go to these hides and you sit and wait for like an hour, 2 hours, and see what comes along to either water or some food or nectar. And I mean, the first one we went to, it was like, the gray peacock pheasant.
Oh man, that's a ridiculous looking bird.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, it was a female, right? And the female is pretty wild looking, but I was like, oh, I kind of feel bummed out because the male in the pictures looks really like intense with these eye spots and
talk about oscillated,
oscillated.
Plumage. Yeah.
But she takes off and I'm like, okay, saw it. Great. And then later the male comes out and you're like, holy crap, we saw both, It was pretty amazing. And there were a lot of these things that used to be really hard to find: cup wings and short wings and some of the flycatchers and white-tailed robins. And they were all just in these places that, you can sit and watch. And there's a real peaceful element to it of just sitting there, because we're often, if you're leading a trip, especially in Latin America, there's a lot of tape playback and going and looking for a thing that might be unusual that's over here, and you're moving around and you're sort of like actively trying to get them to come out or fishing or something. And this is just sit and be as quiet as you can and hang out. And I thought, like, we should do this more often, like in Latin America, just like set up hides. We don't have the culture. And I thought it was cool, that to just watch, and you never know what's going to come out. You actually don't have any control. You're not.
Is there actually food being put out for these things, or they just happen to come by?
In some places there's water, sometimes there's nectar, and sometimes there's food, and sometimes there's all three. And the food might be, mealworms or seed or something. And it's interesting. And then the other cool kind of thing like that was, you go up this mountain road in the north and you go to this specific spot and you set up these pop-up tents, and then you get in there with this little tiny, like 1 foot high stool, and you sit your big butt down and kind of like all uncomfortable. And then every, then the local guides are like, okay, we're waiting for some really difficult birds. And if you move, if you mess up, they're going to leave. Like nobody's going to see a thing. So you got to be
Wow.
like here still and watching, and it's still dark, and, this particular bird, a whole gang of people the day before had done the same thing, and nothing came in, and apparently it'd been like not really being seen, and we got there, and essentially the whole plan was like 7 a.m. Okay, we 7 a.m. nothing happens. We
They're
leave.
donezo.
It just didn't happen. Dunzo. So 7 a.m. comes around and our magic bird hadn't showed up. So, but we didn't get the sign. It was sort of like, it was like, oh, we're going to hang in a little bit. And like 7:05, the Mrs. Hume's pheasant, which is this
Oh my.
crazy chestnut and silver crazy thing, comes in. First, it was the two females, and then the male came sauntering in. And we were just like, oh my God, look at that thing,
That is an ornate looking bird. Yeah.
Yeah, it was ornate. It's a weird name. Mrs. Hume, Hello,
Yeah.
Mrs. Hume. I mean, I felt like I should offer her some tea. And it's like, the missus, you're a dude. It's like, with that long tail. God. But it was pretty interesting. And the other thing too is we divided our group, right? Because it was like, this is hardcore. You got to get up super early. You got to get out there, and it's going to be like, the whole thing. And some people said, you know what? Like, we're cool with going birding, but we don't want to do all that. So can we just roll in the van like a little later? And we're like, yeah, sure. Like, no problem. That's why we have this 2 vans and the whole thing. So we're on there in our little tents, and we've got the whole thing. And when we're there at 7, whatever, the van pulls up. Bird comes in at 7:05, and everybody in the van got to see it too. So it's like everybody saw this.
Oh,
the bird.
no.
Awesome.
Yeah. No justice though for the early risers. Wow.
Right,
Yeah.
But we were happy. Like we were happy because we were also seeing all sorts of stuff, and yeah, it felt like kind of cool just to do this whole thing and the shenanigans of it all. Like the pop-up tents, the little stool, the staying quiet, and it was really quite good. So we didn't feel like we'd been ripped off. It was on the whole, it was like awesome. They also saw it. It's like we obviously got better looks. We were like a few feet away from this thing, and the van was a little further back, and they had to look through glass. But so I thought that whole experience of sitting and watching every so often in places was pretty neat. And all of my bird touring years of this, I don't think I've done that much. So I thought, like, wow,
Yeah.
we don't do it in Latin America or in the Americas overall, really.
Or Africa.
Right?
True. Africa. Yeah. I love hearing about this trip. I was in Thailand in January of 2020. I'm sure at several of the spots that you were at. It's the only time I've ever done like a big trip like that, all based around one bird. And I just really, really wanted to see spoon-billed sandpiper. So that whole experience of you were at Pac Delay, right? At the wintering spot?
There's 2 wintering spots, and I forget which one we saw.
Okay.
But I think it was the other spot. Like then,
is it also rice fields?
Where
you were?
Yeah, salt pan. It was a salt pan.
Yeah, salt pans. Yeah. That whole experience is just amazing. Just the number of shorebirds that you see, and a literal comparison to finding a needle in the haystack if you're looking for a singular spoon-billed sandpiper. So that was really cool. But I had the same experience in the blinds there, and I feel like it's the longest I've sat still and like the most I've ever held my breath for any type of birding. And it was the same. I was closer to Central Thailand, around Kankerchan is where I'm thinking about specifically, a really popular national park there. But what I'm thinking as we're talking about this, for where you do look for, say, ant pettas or something in South America, it's birds that are coming in to be fed and are often pretty well habituated, and they're very used to that. But the difference here is that there are some birds that might come into the mealworms or the nectar, and those are probably somewhat predictable. But the water is like a total wild card. And that's how you can get anything. And also why it's so important that you're not moving, because this is just a bird that's, happened to come here for water and isn't being drawn in every single day by a feeding schedule. So that explains the need to be so still and be really careful about your blinds. And then also, just anything, so many species that you watch come in and bathe in like a very vulnerable position for the birds too in that way, right? It's really cool.
And a lot of squirrels. We had a lot of squirrels. I started joking I should do a squirrel big year, which George's dad would be. He'd be so into that,
Yes.
Squirrel big year. And the tree shrews. Have you guys ever seen tree shrews? Those were cool. Like they look like a funky squirrel. Like squirrel with a big nose.
Yeah, just the concept of tree shrews is cool.
Yeah. And
you get to see any giant squirrels, Al, in Thailand? The
black and white giant squirrel. I think it's called black giant squirrel, but it's the big black and white one,
Same one we see in Assam.
Yeah. So there's probably a lot of. We saw Asian elephants twice, so that was pretty cool because they're not that easy in Thailand to see them. So that's pretty neat. I did not see one mammal I've seen there before kind of poorly that I would have loved to see is the yellow-throated martin. Did you guys see that? It's like the tyra.
No. Yeah.
It is the tree wolverine of Asia. It's like a massive thing. It's like when I saw one of those kind of cross the road, I'm like, what the heck is that thing?
I didn't realize they were that big. Are they bigger than a tyra?
I think they're similar. They're like equally like muscular.
Mm-hmm. I remember. The first time I saw a tyra, I was by myself on sort of like an area where agricultural areas met like forest. And I was actually a little scared. I was like, this thing was quick and pretty close and scrambling up trees, down trees. And I was like, am I okay?
But again, I got to say, folks listening, George is prone to being scared.
Yes.
Of animals.
This is true.
It's like he loves seeing them.
Yes.
But he's kind of like, there's this element of like, I think we better get out of here, guys. It's like this, the raccoon's coming too close. It's like,
I will not deny this. Yeah. I will not deny this. Yeah. Molly has seen
monkeys,
this. Yes.
He hates monkeys.
No, I like some monkeys. Yeah, macaques and baboons. I am anti-macaque and I am anti-baboon. Other monkeys, I'm pretty pro monkey. But those two groups, not my favorite. Mm-mm.
It's the erratic movements, I think, that get you.
Yeah,
when they're close and they can go in any direction.
They go all monkey on you. They're like,
Nope, I don't like them. I'll tell you what I loved in India were the langurs. And we got to see some hulock gibbons, and man, gibbons are wonderful, and the langurs are just such elegant, beautiful animals. I really do love langurs of any kind, but we see capped langur, and there's the potential to see Gee's golden langur on this trip at a really interesting conservation site for them. I know, Al, that's one you can see in Bhutan as well.
Over there, they just call it golden langur. Is it the same thing? But they're pretty common up in Bhutan in certain places.
Yeah.
They are really cool to see. And it's just kind of you happen about them in most of the cases throughout the national parks. And it's, your family units that you can just watch and whatever they're doing. So it's very comfortable when you can spend as much time as you want and just watch. They're moving around a lot. It's really cool.
The Gee's golden langur, it is a really cool conservation story. We some of our group went and did that, and they've built these like bridges over the roads so these things can move around because the vehicular hits have been a problem for them. But that's going to be a cool part of the experience in Assam next year.
Yeah, we've talked. We're going to have I think Surya on, who's our local guide and does a lot of tours with George. And I'd be really curious if folks want to hear like what you want to hear more about when we're going to do an episode that's dedicated to birding in India and these types of things. Because there are a lot of really cool conservation projects going on, that being a corridor concept, right? You're connecting 2 points, and there's a lot of that that's happening. Wildlife corridors in different sizes, whether that be for a single family of langurs that, you know, is splitting a road, or this massive long-term project that's being talked about that's connecting national parks clear across the region up there too, and, you know, doing land conversion. I love talking about that stuff. So hopefully listeners do too, and we can spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And those gibbons are so, like, the gibbons are basically, they're a huge arm, 2 huge arms and 2 huge legs with this little tiny like body stuck, you know, with a little pinhead. They're the weirdest looking things. It's like if a human looked like a gibbon, you'd like laugh your butt off, because it's like, you know, your arms will reach the ground, you know, and they use those arms to sort of swing through the canopy of, and then they scream, and they have these crazy calls. Like, they're not screams, they're actually kind of melodic, weird yodeling, you know.
They can be quite beautiful, the sounds, but they can just be
it's like odd. A siren in the jungle.
Yeah. And they're loud, right? They're sort of the equivalent of like the howler monkeys, where you're like, except howler monkeys sound like some evil, like,
sounds like,
right. This is much more intriguing. Yeah.
Exactly. I remember the first time I heard howlers as well. I was definitely freaked out. Yeah.
A little different when those hit you at 4 a.m.
I did enjoy some of those mammals, and I thought there was a lot more to see, which hopefully we'll do in India, because, you know, never been to that sector.
Yeah.
We saw a lot, and there's a lot more we could see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys were talking about wood duck and not being like a wood duck. Yesterday we saw mandarin ducks here in Japan. Those things. And the males had the full sails, the big orange triangles sticking up, and they're displaying and doing everything. And today it was like falcated ducks and smews and tufted ducks. It's just like, you know, great. And the ducks here are so tame. You know, there were, I think, 1,000 pintail. And I was thinking, okay, I've seen pintail all my birding life, and I've never seen pintail as tame as they are in Japan. And I don't know why, whether it's like the fact that there's less hunting or some other aspect of it, but it's sort of intriguing, you know, to think about that. And poachers and all the goodies. And the gulls, but I won't talk about the gulls.
And the gulls. Are you in like big city parks for this right now, or what's your setting for that?
Weirdly enough, like, one of the hotels near the airport has a little pond that I know how to get to that has mandarin ducks. So we were like,
so cool.
It's this weird little trail to take you up to this thing, and you see this pond with the scope, and there's the mandarin ducks are still here, you know. And the falcated ducks, and there were about 100 of them actually, were in this city park, and not in Tokyo but elsewhere, in this total industrial, like it's the cooling water for one of the plants, you know, like the it's a very industrially looking thing, but, you know, there's like a public park around there with just loaded with ducks, just loaded. So it's kind of neat. So,
you got a shot at Baikal teal on this trip, Al?
Oh yeah. They will be. You know, Baikal teal. I know, since we talked, do you know that Korea air crash? Remember, like a month ago, right? And they talked about the fact that the original thing, the report hasn't come out, was that a bird might have got, you know, the engines conked out because of a bird strike. So I looked at eBird, weirdly enough, and I was like, what is found near this airport? And there was like thousands of Baikal teal. Like,
goodness.
We're talking, and there were pictures from a couple of years ago of these masses of thick flocks of Baikal teal. And I suggested, like, somewhere on Facebook, that maybe Baikal teal was the issue.
The bird. was the bird that got sucked into the jets. And
somebody posted that apparently they have DNA from, and it was Baikal teal.
Oh, that would have been a good one for Nostradamus, Al. That's strong work.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I predicted it.
Yeah.
Strong
That
work,
was pretty
Nostradamus.
cool.
Yeah.
But it's neat that eBird has enough information now that something as random, and I don't want to belittle the issue that a lot of people, died in this awful accident, but it was random where it happened in a sense, right? And then we have the info from eBird to go, okay, this is the number one hypothesis is that this bird did it. It's like, so from now on, I think we should get rid of all Baikal teal for public safety.
Wow. Let's, yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting platform you've got there.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Anything goes. But, I also marveled at the fact that Baikal teal used to be considered some super, super rare bird. And there are now places in Korea where they're in massive numbers, So.
Yeah, I've not heard of that. That's awesome. The concept of seeing hundreds at once would be
thousands.
Really, thousands even. And you saw there was one out in Oregon just, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I think there were two different birds.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That's what I heard. Yeah. My
Pretty
first
cool.
Baikal teal was in Hawaii.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was way back before I even knew ya.
Heavens.
Yeah.
My only real wild ones were in Japan, winter Japan trip.
Right. Yeah.
It's good spot.
Look forward to them in a few days.
We did have some nice falcated ducks on our Assam trip as well. And two nice pairs of them at Kaziranga, where they seem to be pretty much annual in small numbers.
Surrounded by pheasant-tailed jacanas, however you want to say that, and cotton pygmy geese. That was a really cool moment. It was like 3 awesome birds and one little binocular view.
A lot of birds all there.
There's nothing goosey about pygmy geese. That's another bad name.
That's true.
It is.
It's like they should have called it adorable duck, but not pygmy goose.
Yeah. I kind of like the name, but your point is well taken. I think it's a pretty colorful name.
That was a bird that I looked at before, and I hoped that they were going to be as cute as I thought they might be. And man, they were. They're tiny. Pygmies, aptly describing them. Yeah,
and they taste
compared
like
to the
cotton candy. That's why it's called that. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right.
All that fluff.
Those. Have you ever pondered? We've talked about the fact that pigeons and doves are some of the most beautiful birds in the world when you get to know a bunch of them. But waterfowl have to be some of the most beautiful birds in the world, and we kind of downplay them. Even our local ones, like pintail, is amazing. Like
hooded merganser. Hooded merganser. You get a close look at a breeding plumage blueing teal. Man, beautiful birds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if you're seeing a lot of water birds, you're in good places too.
Yeah. We saw the smew today, female smew. That was cool.
That's a bird I really want to see.
Yeah, it's a great bird.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we are coming up on the hour here.
Really? Already?
How about that?
Holy moly. Yeah.
Officially kicked into gear. Feels good to be back in the saddle. It feels good to be talking to you guys and to be reconnecting with our listeners. Feels great. And we've got a lot more stuff coming up. Al, you've got some more time in Japan. Anything else you want the good folks to know about or be thinking about?
Well, like I said before, I'm really excited about this spring in Japan trip. We're going. We have enough people, but it's the only trip that I've got coming up that's got spaces open, and it's seabirds migration, some endemic birds, and also just Japan when it's not cold.
Well, a lot of beautiful breeding birds too at that time of year. Should be really some gorgeous songbirds, especially.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the food. And we didn't talk about the Indian food you guys had too, because
That's right.
Tremendous.
did you realize we all three were in some of the,
Serious
best
food hubs.
countries?
Yeah.
Thailand, India, Japan.
Yeah.
You
We
think
should
that's a
catch up on
coincidence?
food soon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No kidding.
Molly, you're blasting off what? I can't keep track of your schedule either.
Tomorrow. Yeah. I am taking off for 3 tours that I have coming up. Central Andes in Colombia and Western Andes. Those are tours that we've done for several years at Hillstar, and they run back to back. And I'm back to Cuba, doing that route again. I'm really, really excited to do it in March. I think that's going to be a great time for it. So, that's coming up right after. And yeah, I have a few things in future months that still have availability. First off, my West Virginia tour is a go. Speaking of good food, I'm sure everybody associates West Virginia with really good food. We will definitely have that on this Birds, Nature, and Culinary Adventures. So I've been prepping for that. The way that this tour is set up, we're staying in these great big cabins that are like, I don't know, 7 bedrooms, 7 bath, that kind of thing. I'm really excited that we have these signups, because if we had enough, I could get this place for half of our tour where we're going. It's got like a private lake with kayaks if anybody wants to use them. And it's like, it's a really cool setting. And I was hoping we had enough for it. So we have 2 bedrooms left. So if anybody is interested in that, I've been lining up our herpetologists to join us for some herping and scoping out some stuff, and I'm really, really excited about that. A couple other things that I've added. The first week of May, I am joining birding camp in Texas, and I am just so excited for this. This is the Texas A&M extension that runs this, and it's a focus on private lands and conservation for private landowners, and there are all these different workshops and stuff. It's a 4-day event, and I grew up working really closely with the Extension Service on private lands through 4-H and other projects, because I grew up farming cattle and working through all this. So between that and work that I've done on habitat management projects with the American Forest Foundation and Nature Conservancy before, this is all like, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go join and do that. So that's coming up. And lastly, I am going to Alaska in August, joining making it to Alaska. Not clear up to Nome, but I'm doing an Alaska sampler tour with Naturalist Journeys, with Greg Butcher too. So that's all around Anchorage and Seward, and it's during the salmon run, and it's birds and mammals and culture and all of that. So I'm just staying busy.
Awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it is. No kidding. George, how about you?
Yeah, I'm around for a couple weeks, then head to Portugal for 1 week of checking stuff out there, and in advance of a trip that we're going to try and run in the fall this year in October. So I'm looking forward to that. People should check that out. We have a couple spots left on our Mongolia cats and birding trip, going for snow leopard, Pallas's cat, bunch of migrant birds, and some cool Mongolian specialties. So that's with Adam Wallane, who is as experienced and a guide as you'll find, and as nice a dude as there is in the world. So people should definitely check that out. Try to get to Mongolia with Adam later this year. That trip is in August. Otherwise, I'll detail some upcoming trips that I've got coming up in future pods. And still a couple spots left on my southern India trip to the Ghats Deccan Plateau for most of South Asia's endemics in southern India. That's in December, and we're still looking for a couple folks to join that trip. So I hope folks will join. We'll take a look at that as well. That's all I got for now, guys. Great to be back here chatting with you. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again soon. Take care.
All right. Bye. Thanks everyone.